as you know, there will be a second webinar on Tuesday for you. So today we will spend 1 hour and a half together. The objective, est-ce que quelqu'un peut passer les slides du coup? Thank you. So the objective today is simply to expand our horizon and discover new perspective together. So fixing the Earth is the name of this webinar. So you may have found this topic strange or even irrelevant to your operational and business priorities. But you have to know that it is more than certain that with the climate crisis and the energy crisis, companies such as Manitou Group will have to reinvent new ways of doing things, new ways also of developing their business. And this will have an impact on everyone in the company, on the way you work, and even tomorrow on your objectives. So for the group, we have clearly seen over the last 18 months that a new playing field has emerged. There is an extremely strong acceleration of environmental, social, and societal regulation, an acceleration as well of the expectation of our customers, our investors, and all our stakeholders. And this is also becoming a competitive challenge for our competitors. So this new playing field, which is changing dramatically, is not something to be feared. It is just a new set of rules to which we must adapt. That's why we are here today, because it's important to take a step back to prepare for change, to get also inspired, and to rethink our ways of doing things. And the good news is that in the group, in Manitou Group, we have a strong capacity for innovation, a great capacity for change, and you will see in that presentation that the solution exists. So we have today with us two speakers for this, two external speakers for this webinar. Pascale Guiffant. So Pascale is with us. She's the co-founder and CEO of an organization called Lande. And inside that organization, she supports and she accompanies the transformation and innovation of organization which wants to accelerate on ecological and social transition. And previously, she was a deputy director of sustainable development for the Suez company, which is a big French company which is part of CAC 40. And we have also with us today Walter Bouvais. So Walter is an economic journalist, and he has co-founded the organization Lande, which objective is to train, support individuals, also organization in their ecological and innovative transformation. And Lande in France has already trained and raised awareness among 9,000 professionals. So welcome to Pascale and Walter for this webinar.
Thank you very much, Aude. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be with you today and being able to share with you our vision of those issues that are so important for the world, but very important for the Manitou Group as well. Walter, little world.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. Nice to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Walter. So we are together for an hour and a half, and so we will share with you what is our vision today of reinventing this economy, how we can meet the challenges that we are facing with in terms of ecology, but in terms of social issues as well. And during the time, what we will look at is how we go from now to this objective of 2030. It's in 8 years, and we want to look at the future. We want to look at how we're going to overcome these challenges. So during this time, we will play with you, and we'll try to work with you and ask you some questions during the presentation. So in order to do so, we ask you to take your iPhone, your cell phones, and or even your computer, and to go to this website, www.menti.com, and you can enter the following code, which is 2825119. This will help us to organize a quiz during which, because we will ask you several questions on the different issues, and we'll try to go through this analysis with several questions. So you can go to the MIT. First questions is that, what do you expect for this meeting? What do you expect to learn about those issues that Aude has presented, and what do you expect to learn from the ecological changes that we are facing? So maybe if you can connect to the Menti, www.menti.com, and use the code 2825119. So like that, we can see what you want to see, what you want to hear, and maybe what you want to share with us during the last 30 minutes, where we can ask questions and discuss about what we will see before. So inspiration, learn about CSR, great. Ideas, all right. Green ideas. Expectation from for the CO2 policies of Manitou. Excellent. I don't know, first time that I am in this kind of meeting. Okay, so let's have a surprise. Great, thank you so much for your words. Excellent. Collaboration, how Manitou is working on that. Excellent. Okay, so I think we'll try to answer to those questions and try to inspire you on those different items. But to start, maybe I would like to share.
Maybe just one word on CO2 policy of Manitou and what we will do in the coming years. It will be presented on Tuesday during the second webinar. It will be more detailed during the second seminar on this topic.
Okay, so Tuesday, what time?
Let me check.
Same time.
Everyone can
same time.
take
Same time.
its
Yes.
agenda and know
Yes.
the date and time in order to discover everything about your CO2 policy and objectives.
Yeah, it will be on same time.
Excellent. Okay, so let's start. This first picture, I'm sure a lot of you know these two persons, Al and Bill. This picture is like 20 years ago, and what they are doing in this picture is that they are working on what we called at that time the information highway. This picture is just a symbol of what happened like more than 20 years ago with this idea that we would have information highway that are today the web, the internet, something that has changed completely our lives. And what we want to share with you is that at that time, the people that were engaging in this change, in this revolution, in this innovation, they didn't know exactly what they will find, what it will create, what will be the impact of this revolution, but they were sure that they will change something and that it will change completely our lives. And actually, they were quite right, as the digital world and the technology, this last 20 years, we've been changing a lot of things in our lives. We've been changing the way we work, the way we fall in love, the way we are still in contact with our family, especially during confinements, the way we listen to music. It has been changing a lot of things. And this is something that is very important today in our everyday lives, in work, at home, with our friends, with our family. And the thing is, we think that today and what we are facing now is maybe an ecologic revolution. Today, the promoters of the ecological revolutions, they are saying the same thing. They are saying that behind ecology, behind the fact that we need to understand better how our house is working, behind all the science that have been gathered this last 50 years, we are getting to know much more how our earth is working, how the ecology is working, and we are discovering extremely interesting things, like the fact that trees are talking together through mushrooms, or things like how we are connecting to nature. And what we are saying is that maybe the last 20 years we have faced a digital revolution, but maybe today we are at the beginning of an ecologic revolution that will also change the way we are building house, the way we are eating, the way that we are doing tourism or even moving. And this is something that is really what we want to share with you today, is to show you what is the state, where are we standing now, and facing where we're standing now with lucidity, with being frank with what we see, but also saying that maybe this revolution that is in front of us is a revolution that is inspiring and that may bring us a lot of challenges, but also a lot of joy. As we like to be, I would say, joyful in Hoppeland, we want to ask you three questions that I will ask you to keep during this presentation. The first one is, do you know the real weight of the occupants of this virtual room? So I don't know how many people have connected, 191, but do you know what is the weight of this room? The second question is, do you know your age in ppm? And the third question is, how many trees do you have? Okay, maybe you don't see what are the answers now, but we will go through the presentation and you will find the answers during the presentation. You've seen on this picture that we are seeing a mountain, and what I propose you is that the first part of our travel together, maybe the slope is going to be a bit hard. Maybe it's going to be a bit hard for the legs, and the subject that we will see, you will be facing it with maybe a bit of difficulty, but let me say that at the end we will be at the top of the mountain and the view is really beautiful, so please stick with me for this travel. So when we talk about ecology and when we talk about what we are facing, we talk also, of course, about the future. And when you are reading your newspapers, opening your cell phone and seeing of the news, many people propose us with very different views of what would be the future, and sometimes it's a bit they show us that it is very clear, but we are facing different views. The first one is the fact that, okay, everything was going to be okay, we are just going to change things at the margin of how we work, and it's going to be fine. But the thing is, less and less people are really believing that, and we see that what scientific are telling us about the state of our world makes this assumption a little bit fraud. The second one is, I would say, a very pessimistic one. Like we will face a collapse as we haven't seen before, and the fact that we will run out of energy will put us in a situation which is very hard and very sad. That's the second one. Quite frankly, I think it's a difficult one to be okay with. The third one would be this vision that technology will save us, and maybe at the end we will be completely dematerialized. Well, I think this is something maybe that is a bit far. And the third one is that, well, some of you are seeing what the picture is from the WALL-E film from Walt Disney, and the idea is that, okay, we are going to exfiltrate and we're going to go to Mars. Right, it's going to take some years before Mars is really working and is being Earth formed. So that's a future that is different. The thing is, at the end of the day, no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows what is the future. And what we want to propose you is that maybe we can face these challenges a bit different. We can change these scenarios a bit different. And what we want to propose you is to say, okay, we are facing this challenge, but let's stop a minute. Let's stop a second. Let's stop as we did with COVID. Maybe there is another way, there is different voice, a different view to take on these different challenges. We've lived 2 years from April 2020. The world has changed completely. We have done things with COVID that we thought were not possible. All the world stopped for 1 minute because of this virus. And what's happening when you stop and you look at the world and you are looking how it works? Well, this stop have helped a lot of people thinking and looking at how this world is working, how we are consuming, how the production of things are done. And many professionals from this period just took a break and look at how we were doing things and maybe thought that we can do it differently. We can do it differently because the thing is, today in the way the world is working, the indicators that we are following are economical indicators. They are very important. There are indicators that are completely part of the way we are working. But what we want to propose you is to say that maybe there is other indicators to look at. Environmental indicators, social indicators, the fact that we need to include in the way we are working elements on indicators on climate, on biodiversity, on the way we are impacting Earth and the way we are impacting our lives. Many companies and a lot more of companies as you are doing extra financial reporting that help the organization to report and to pilot their action, including these aspects. What we want to share with you now is maybe to share what are these aspects and why we should take it into account. And sometimes extra financial ratings can be a bit difficult, so we will propose you a different view on it. We will propose you to go this way by looking at elements, the elements that are essential to life on Earth: water, air, soil, fire, and life. The idea is to say, if we look at these elements and if we look what we are with them, maybe we can find what is not working. So in order to start, I would like to start with the first question, which is the following. So, how much plastic do you think we absorb in a week? So you can answer on your phone. Be careful, it's quick. You have a few seconds. Okay, maybe it's a bit quicker, right? Okay, so how much plastic do you think we absorb in a week? The alky, the cap of a big pen, or a credit card? Well, actually, a credit card. Can you imagine that every week, and it's in average, you are eating the equivalent of a bank card? So this is a question just to illustrate what's going on in. So second questions. How much water does Manitou Group use? Oh, sorry, we have a little problem. Yeah, here it is. So these questions about the credit card is just something to show you that today the pollution from plastic has been impacting the old water cycle. We have been producing a lot of plastics in this world. We have been producing a lot of single-use plastics that have been polluting the whole water cycle. Which means that today, and that's what you see on the slide, it's also raining plastic in the Alps and in the Arctic. It means that microplastics are everywhere. So having said that, what do? Do we sit and wait and saying, wow, that's horrible? Maybe we can do something else. Maybe we can see that seize it point and say we can change it. We can change the way we are doing that. We can change by using more circular economy, stopping to use single-use plastics, changing the way we use these materials and lowering the pollution as we did on many other pollutants before. But speaking of water, let me ask you another question about Manitou. So you can go into the MIT. How much water does Manitou Group use on average to manufacture a machine? Well, actually the answer. So yes, it's 2.6 meter cube. So what is this 2.6 meter cube? It's called the water footprint. So I mean that when you are also producing goods and products, you have a water footprint. So you will need to have some water resources, and managing these water resources is going to be more and more important in a context where you have climate change and you will have much more pressure on these resources. Let's continue with questions. So are you ready for the last question? Next questions. My question is around CO2. Do you know what concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere should we target under the Paris Agreement? And here we are in parts per million. 220, 350. Okay, so let's see. Yes, well done. 350 ppm, bravo. So this is what we need to attain. When we look, so you've seen the parts per million is the way we are expressing CO2 in the atmosphere. Let's look at the ppm curve during this during thousands of years. You can see that on this chart there is two pieces of the information that we have to look at. The fact that since 800,000 years, the curve have been going up and down for many, many thousand years. But what we see is that since 1950, the curve have been going up and up and up on unprecedented level. And that's what have been going on with this period of what we call Anthropocene, where we have been consuming a lot more energy and we have been producing a lot more CO2. We have to keep in mind that the greenhouse effect is something that is very important in the Earth system, because today the average temperature on Earth is 15 degrees, but without this greenhouse effect, it would be minus 19 degrees Celsius. So you can imagine that it would be much more difficult to grow food. The Paris Agreement say that, and you see that today we are around 420. The Paris Agreement say that we have to go back to 350 in 2050. So when you look at this curve and you look at the slope, it's a very, very impressive. So it's a great challenge that we have to do. And to do so, what do we need to do? We need to detoxify from fossil fuels. And this challenge of decarbonization is a challenge that Manitou is facing as well. Sorry. And that you are facing. So it's a great challenge. But talking about air as an element, I would like to ask you another question. Do you know what does VOC mean? And this is a free answer, so you can Kiran Kumar, right? I don't think it's that, but boo, okay. Right. Voice of the customer. Phonetic organic compound. Okay, components. Right. Well, in this case, it's actually the volatile organic compound. So bravo. But yes, voice of customers are also very important to listen to. The thing is, these compounds, they can be released in paints, in glues, in chemicals, and they are used in many industrial processes, but even in your house, for example. The first challenge with these VOC is that they emit less, that the product emits less of VOC. To protect ourselves, this is an environmental, but this is also a health and safety issue, which is very important. So the challenge is also to see how in your industrial process you can suppress them. So another question to go to the resources parts. So are you ready? How much raw material do you think is needed to produce a 2 kilogram chip, electronic chip? How much do you think we need material to produce this 2-gram chip? Time's up. Okay, 2, 5. Well, the correct answer is 32 kilograms. 16,000 times the weight of a microchip. This question is just to show you that in order to produce a product or a good, there is an ecological backpack that is linked to it, that we need a lot of water, resources, a lot of energy in order to produce something. And that's this ecological backpack that we want to reduce, especially when we talk about electronic chips or electronic equipments. We think about rare metals, like this picture is a picture of the tantalum. These rare metals are firstly extract from mines where conditions of working are completely violating human rights. But the other thing is that they are rare. By their names, we know they're rare. And one of the challenge we will have as well is to be able to not just extract them, but being able to recycle them, to reuse, to have them back in the circuit. How can we reuse the material in order to lower the level of resources we are extracting from the earth and being able to reuse it in several times? That's the challenge of the circular economy. And the thing is, Manitou is also facing this issue on resources that are needed to build to build machines. So the question that I want to ask you is, what is the average amount of industrial waste produced in the manufacture of a machine? You have 30 seconds. The idea is to understand how much resources you need to build your machine, in average. What is the industrial waste produced? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Okay, many answers. Almost 400 kilos, and I see that some of you have been not far from it. So you can imagine that to manufacture a machine, on average, you have 400 kilo of waste. What do you do with it? Where it's going? How do you treat it? How do you valorize it? This is a question that is very important in the circular economy aspects. Another question and another resource that is very important. Sorry, we had a little up. Our economy must be fossil fuel free by 2050. What is the share of fossil fuels in global consumptions today? 20%, 50%, 80%. I don't see why we should go out without oil. Yes, excellent. Absolutely. Approximately 80%. And here, the global direct primary energy consumption in the world. And you can see that we have to suppress or not to use anymore the energy that is behind the 2 bars. So you can see that the challenge is is really, really high, and it's linked to lowering our CO2 emissions. Mostly of our CO2 emissions are from the use of fossil fuels for transport, and that's something that we really need to lower. This is a challenge that is absolutely colossal. Let's go to the last element, which is life. And with a question, scientists have had fun waiting all life on Earth. What mass did they find for humans? So life is about plants, animals, insects, bacteria, virus. How much is the human in Earth? And you can see that there is maybe 2 questions we can we can say already. Yes, it's 0.01% of the total. And the last question, 99% of the crap. Well, maybe we can say that if we are bringing 99% of the problems, maybe we can change our ways to see things, and maybe we can bring 99% of the solution and of much more positive action as well. But the thing is, we are also facing a very important time in terms of biodiversity extinction. We are facing the 6 massive extinctions of biodiversity, and it's about all of the species, insects, birds, big mammals. There is a strong curve on biodiversity, and it is disappearing very, very fast, with very negative impacts on the way we are producing, on impacts on agriculture, impacts on nature and everything that is surrounding us. And especially because also we are deforesting in a very high pace. We are burning, bringing tree down, with effects as well on the population that are living there, that are really guardians of cultures, of knowledge, of cooperation with life, that maybe we have a little bit forgot in our actual civilization. When we look at that, the thing is, what we want to tell you about life as well is maybe we should see for sorry, we should remember that what we are telling you and what we want and what is inspiring us is to work for the future generations. Is we want to work for bringing and keeping the hopes of our children, and we have this responsibility also of as professionals to be able to work in order to preserve and to offer a future to this generation that are looking at us and that want to live in the next year in a livable earth. And the good, so here we are in top of the mountain looking at the view. The slope has been hard, but maybe what we want to bring to you today is to say, well, there is hope, there is engagement, there is joy, there is innovation in the heart of humans. And what is nice is that also there is a plan. And we have a plan to go through that. We have a plan because a lot of actors and companies and innovators have been trying, have been experimenting, have been integrating new ways of doing by integrating circular economy, agroecology, functional economy, trying to do things with less resources and being more frugal, getting help from biomimicry in order to know how to collaborate more with life and to be able to support these production systems and organizations on life. And that's something that we would like to share with some inspirations and maybe with remembering something. So I would like to ask you a question, is that, okay, let's take a break. We have been seeing in these different elements, water, air, land, the energy, the living, there is these different issues that we are facing. And the questions we would like to ask you is that, what are the knowledge you need on these elements? What do you need to be able to act on it and to be able to integrate that in your professional life? Do you need more knowledge on water, on air, on CO2, on resources, on energy? Okay. So you see, it's like a racehorse, a horse race. So let's see, what is the element you want to have more information on? Well, great.
Well, I think as per I don't think any other percentage from the finance is in here. As a finance, we are only asked for the information for the scrap or for the production numbers. I just want to know what kind of other information we can provide it to get it better for the CSR activities.
Okay, yes. Now I think we'll have a time to. Sorry, I have an echo. What do you want to answer to?
Yes. Yes, indeed, we'll have a session for question at the end, a 30-minute session of question. And we can come back on this aspect regarding Manitou impact.
And we can also direct you on some information, and the idea is to know what you want to know, and then we can target how to give you information.
Do not hesitate to use the chat to ask your question, because we will gather all the questions and we'll be more able to respond to them at the end. Thank you.
Great.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's continue our travel. So maybe something to remember before we go in our different inspirations. The first thing to remember is that, well, you see this picture. This is a picture from Apollo mission. It's called Blue Marble. And this is the first picture we have, the first photography we have of Earth. This is what the astronauts are seeing from their from space. And they talk a lot about this overview effect, the fact that seeing our planet like that is bringing a strong feeling of and a strong link to it, and a lot of emotion that are linked to seeing the Earth like that. I think when we talk about ecology and when we talk about this issue, maybe we need to remember that this this planet have been developing since 4.5 billion years, and that there is a very strong R&D team that have been working for many years, from many times, and that have been developing absolutely incredible things like plants, like trees, like primates, like insects. And 3 million years ago, humans, with different kind of humans, but humans. And that's something I think we need to remember, and also to acknowledge that where we are here today because also of this history, because the fact that nature is giving us a lot of things, a lot more of things that we are sometimes thinking in our everyday life. And that's what we call ecosystem services. The ecosystem services are all the services that nature is giving us. It's about regulation, regulating the atmosphere, regulating the water cycle, sometimes depolluting some areas. This is a support as well to be able to eat all the supporting aspects: photosynthesis, soil formation, biodiversity, all the provision that we take from nature: wood, clean water, food, everything that we need in order to be alive, in order to survive, in order to have our bodies work, but also everything that is cultural, recreation, education, stewardship, even a lot of religion has had a very strong link with nature, and especially with water. Can we give a value to a day at the beach with your family? Can you give a value of looking at the sun going down at the end of the day? Well, this is very difficult. And the thing is, we haven't given any value of all these services that nature is giving to us. And a researcher, Robert Constanza, has looked at what is the value of ecosystemic services today. What is the value of what nature is giving us? Well, he has looked at it and tried. And it gives a value in dollars. The idea is not to say we need to value economically in nature, but we need to be able to look at what is the level of this value. And what Robert Constanza saw is that by evaluating these services, he found that this represents 1.5 times the world's GDP. What does it mean? It means that in order to produce the world GDP, we need 1.5 times the same value in nature. And this is something that we don't evaluate. That is something that is not in our current company's balances. We don't look at how much nature we need in order to produce what we produce, in order to live. And that's something that is a bit missing in the way we are driving our projects, in the way we are driving our entrepreneurial adventure. And that's maybe something we need to reintegrate in the way we are looking at nature and different capital. In order to have civilization, in order to have human life, you need to have nature. And nature is a basis maybe of what we will need to continue to grow. And that's very important because it means that in the way we are looking at organization, we have to take much more, to put much more attention on natural capital, on social capital, and not just looking at economic capital. And now we are in a situation when we need not just to limit our impacts on natural capital, but also to be able to protect it, to preserve it, and maybe at one point to regenerate it. And this is a new way of doing things. This is a new way of building companies and organizations. And this is a new way of putting impact in front of everything we do. We want to share with you some inspirations and some situations where people have been developing companies and innovations, and they developed it with impact in mind. But before that, maybe another inspiration from the Apollo. What you see on this slide is the Apollo guidance computer. This computer has flown to the moon, has allowed the Apollo to fly to the moon. This computer was 22 kilo. It had only 4 kilobytes of memory. And the storage capacity of the computer at that time was 72 kilobytes. Can you imagine? Do you imagine today the level of memory you have on your iPhone or on your computer? Well, with this computer, and we have been able to have people going back and forth from the moon, and they went back, and the space shuttle went back with 382 kilos of moon rocks. The program of this computer has been written by a woman. And this inspiration is maybe to give you some inspiration also, that maybe in the world to come, we will need a little bit more sobriety and trying to do extraordinary things with less resources, and also to bring a little bit more of a feminine touch to the world and to the way we are doing things. Another inspiration that we wanted to share with you, and among all the challenges we have seen, is that one of the way to look at this challenge as well is using the pillars of the circular economy. When we talk about circular economy, most of the time we think about recycling, but circular economy is much more than recycling. Circular economy is at first doing more things with less. Being able to eco-conceived products in order to limit their impacts on the environment, in order to be able to limit their impacts on water, limit the pollutants, limit the resources needed, and being able to think since their first design, how they will be used, how their usage will help them to be used much longer, how they could be repaired, how they would be recycled, and how we will manage the end of life. So circular economy is a very important step in the way we are looking at these challenges. So on this, I would like to ask you another question, which is about the Manitou engagement on circular economy. What is the percentage of reuse of steel waste in the group? You have a group that have been working a lot on those issues. Do you know how you are performing on circular economy, and especially on the reuse of steel waste? Which is, by the way, a very important resource because which needs a lot of energy. 1, time's up. 50, 30, 75, 100%. And to that, I think we can say a big bravo, because this is a very, very strong performance. So you are well engaged in circular economy. Let's share some other inspiration. First one, Patagonia, the well-known brand. So they are producing textiles, jackets, and pullovers and things like that. It's sportswears. And one thing is that Patagonia, when you buy a jacket, well, it is guaranteed for 100 years. So it means that if you have a problem, you can send it back and have it repaired. And this is something that is real, as they have in California, a site which is only focusing on that. It employs 90%, and they are doing 60,000 repairs per year on jackets. This is quite new, and there is not a lot of textile companies that are doing that. And Patagonia has been a pioneer in this, in the fact that they not just offer to repair, but they also offer sustainable goods, and goods that will last a lot longer than other competitors. Another example is the Fairphone. The Fairphone is a Dutch startup company, and Fairphone have been working on two aspects of impact. They first worked on the fact that most of the phones are very difficult to repair, and they are very difficult to replace parts. So they've been working on a phone that can be repaired quite easily, that have modular aspects, and which lower a lot the aspects of resources needed in order to change your phone. You can change the different aspects, chips, battery, and etc. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that Fairphone have been working a lot on trades, and the fact that they are relying, as we said before, on coltan, which is a rare metal. Coltan is mined in the Congo Basin in situations that are very difficult environmentally, but also in conditions where there is strong violations of human rights. And they have been mobilizing in trying to have a much more ethical value chain on that. They've been working with several other companies. And the fact that they are proactive on this issue means that they might succeed in having things moved in this manner. So this is also an example that if you want to be proactive on those, you can also coalition with other companies in order to have some value chain that will be much more ethical and have a better environmental impact. If we look at what Fairphone is doing in terms of CO2 emission, if every constructor of cell phone was doing as Fairphone, we can imagine that the carbon footprints of telephony would be reduced instantly by 30%. So that's very strong. Of course, they are still small compared to other large companies, but they are really creating a new standard. They are really creating new indicators with which we can evaluate the phone we want to buy. And actually, they are inspiring other companies, as there is this framework companies that have been doing the same for portable computers. And it's the same thing that you can have portable computers that you can repair. You can change some parts of it, and like that you will lower the CO2 impact and the resource impact of having your computer. Another inspiration in the circular economy framework and how we can use better resources is this Conceptos. It's a Colombian startup that have decided to design bricks from plastic that is recycled. So they collect plastic, and from that they are creating these bricks. They are very easy to organize and to build with. And from that, they have been building very fast schools and small houses, dispensaries, and town halls in area that had difficulty to have access to other materials. And they are also recycling a big part of plastic that is normally going back to nature or being burned in very, very difficult situation. Another aspects of another example is on transportation as well. Transports have been, we know that this is a big CO2 impact. So there is a lot of innovation and projects in order to try to reduce the CO2 footprint of transportation. One example is a retrofit. It means that you will change and you will transform a classic car in an electric car. And the thing is, you are just changing the motor and you are just changing in order to move from a thermal car to an electric car. The big advantage of this method is that you don't have to rebuild the car. You don't have to produce a new car. You stay with your with the old car, and then you are you don't use resources. You are less you use less water and energy. According to Jan McChain's calculation, this creates a potential of minus 38% of CO2 if you use retrofit. And we know that retrofitting is a subject that inspires Manitou in your sector, and that's something that you are looking at. Maybe we can share also what Renault is doing on those aspects, as Renault has been defining a new strategy with four parts. The fact that to retrofit and try to develop a strong retrofit factory, and the idea is same thing to electrifying thermal vehicles. They are also working on battery capacity and the fact to recycle batteries, that because a car battery is out of order when it arrives from 75% of capacity. And when we look at that, we can think of other usage for this battery. And so they are looking how to recycle it and to be able to lose once and again, to use more energy, to use energy differently. And they have also create a very interesting thing, which is an innovation sale, which is open to all employees and to all teams. And the idea is to be able to try new things, to open new ways, to invite innovations, And of course, to be able to make mistakes, because in all that we are presenting to you, all these inspirations, there is many things to invent, there is many things to innovate on. And the thing is, sometimes we're going to do mistakes and we learn from these mistakes, and that's fine. And that's what Renault is trying to do with this strategy. Another example is what we can do also on industrial projects on larger scale in terms of sorry on intercontinental transport and shipping. There is you have signed a partnership with Neoline in order to transport your parts and goods for your production system. And Neoline is as Zephyr et Boré, which is another company working on the same aspect. They are both trying to lower the CO2 emissions from intercontinental from large containers and cargo ships, and they are thinking that they can save around 20% in terms of fuel consumption from these cargo ships and from the way they are changing this cargo, which is quite important, as you know that cargo ships are consuming a lot of fuels, and they have a big impact on that. Apart from transport, we've seen a lot of inspiration also in construction and public works, like in Canada with the Society Dirt, which is creating modular panels and modular way of building and of decorating and the offices. And this modular building can be assembled and disassembled, which means that they have an end of life which is much more, less impact. They are also relying a lot on biosourced materials that come from nature. They are using recycling textiles, and they are really rethinking completely the way we are building and the material with which we are building, and lowering a lot the impact of the environmental impact of the sector. Another company, this is a Charrier, a company which is actually using large machine that you can produce. This French company, her core business is to build roads, and they have been building roads for many years. But what they see now is that they have more and more contracts in order to work on renaturation projects. And the project you see is in La Rochelle, where they have been doing a restoration project for wetland. And you know that wetlands are very important in terms of CO2 absorption, but also in managing high level of water and in the links with the sea also. So these companies that are, of course, still doing a lot of business by building roads, they are also now developing new business activities around restoring wetlands, around reinstalling trees and around the roads and etc., and working in renaturation and restoration of nature in urban areas, but also around urban areas. And this brings us to this idea of the fact that it's not just about lowering our impacts or being able to neutralize our impacts on nature, but maybe we need also to regenerate, and we need to restore ecosystems and equilibrium that we have been harming for many years. And the thing is, maybe we should invent a regenerative economy, an economy that will help us to live in a world that will regenerate its own ecosystems. It means that we need to cooperate with nature, that we have to work on soil restoration, as we can see it in agroforestry or agroecological agriculture. We need to go to a zero waste systems where everything is resources and how we manage to use it, diversify production, and have a strong impact on CO2 absorption. Because at one point we will be able to lower our CO2 emissions, but at one point we would need also to develop CO2 wells, and we will be able to absorb more CO2 than we will emit. And the thing is, CO2 absorption is done with trees and plants. So some example. This first inspiration is Aforest. This is an Indian company, and they have been implementing the Miyawaki methodology, which is a methodology where you plant trees on a small areas but with a much more density. And what is amazing in this method is that they are absorbing a lot more CO2 than normally, but also the development of trees is very impressive. And you can see on the pictures in 2 years what you can find. Can you imagine to see that in the middle of large cities that are densely inhabited? We know that the presence of plants and trees are very important in fighting on extreme weather and extreme temperatures. This is one solution that we can implement. Actually, we are doing it with one company in Lande, who is implementing in the region several aspects like that of small urban forests that will help towns and cities to be able to fight against extreme temperatures. The second example is from Italy, and this is a very innovative system, which is a 3D printing of a sorry, of a bioclimatic housing. And this house is made from rice straw. So it means that we are using 3D printing with rice straw resources in order to build this house. You have to keep in mind that 3D printing for houses is more and more used in Africa, for example, in order to build schools and small houses, and to build it much more quicker than we used to do with classic construction methods. We have also eco-district, and this one is one in Denmark, in Køge, where this eco-district is built within a forest, which means that we are changing the way we are building. We are building by lowering the impact on the forest, and also being able to build by learning about the forest and how it works. And you can see on the little plan that they are also taking into account all the water flows and all the aspects of the forest with the construction of this eco-district. So it's not about recreating a forest around the building, but building a building in the forest. Another company which is very, very inspirative on that is Interface. And Interface, they have been working on the fact to work a lot on their CO2 footprint and they have been working on that since 1996 with a project which is called Climate Take Back, and they reached 67% less CO2 emissions on their company. Actually, they are producing carpet tiles, and today they are working on a very inspiring R&D projects where they want their carpet tiles to absorb more CO2 than it will emit. So it means that when you will buy a carpet tile from Interface, you will not consume CO2, but you will absorb CO2 with these carpet tiles. I know this seems a bit crazy, but you can imagine that this vision, that for the moment is a vision, and it's an R&D program, and it's not yet the case, but having this vision that your company will help with a product as carpet tile absorb more CO2 than it emits, it's something that is very inspiring and that can bring a very strong vision to these new ways of looking at on our production processes. A last example, and an example that we like very much at Open Lande, is this example of coral artifacts. This is a French project, and this is a project that have been created by an artist. Jérémy Gobet, he sculpts corals. He loves corals. He's creating a lot of art pieces and sculptures around corals, and has been looking at the structures of corals for many years. Once he went to an artistic residency in Clermont-Ferrand, where they proposed him to meet with several companies. And in Clermont-Ferrand, we have a very well-known company, which is Michelin. So he went to see Michelin, but he didn't find so much things. So he went to a smaller company, which is called La Fontanille. And La Fontanille, they are doing traditional lace, French traditional lace. And they have this technique, which is called le point d'esprit. And actually this lace, the form of the lace, is looking the same that the structure of the coral. So they work together and they say, okay, that's interesting, this structure. And they worked with also a scientist in order to see if this lace can be the support of young corals in order for them to develop. And they structured this project. They have tested it on the Philippines. And guess what? It worked. So it means that today, Jérémy Gobet, an artist, is working with different industries, textile industries in France that used to do lace, which is a very traditional and ancient work of this company. And they are together developing a new economic activity, a new way of being able to restore the sea, of being able to repair the coral. And I think this is a very nice inspiration as well, that innovation can come from very different sources, and that we can, from examples like that, create jobs, create innovation from dream and from a very different point of view on what should be done in order to repair coral. So this is an inspiration we like very much. I would like to end my presentation just to tell you that what we want to share with you today with this presentation is that, yes, it's true, the situation is problematic, and we've seen that we have many big challenges to face on those issues. However, we have shared with you some inspiration. Some of them, they are at small scale, that's true. But more and more, these innovations that are today at small scales are becoming included in industrial level. And you are one actor of this change, of the fact that these inspirations, this innovation can reach industrials and biggest level in order to transform the way we are producing, in order to transform the way we are working, in order to transform our jobs and our companies. I think, I believe, and we believe, that Manitou is a player of this transformation and of the economy. And what we want to share with you is that this path, it's not without challenges, it's not without work, it's not without rigor, but it's a big adventure of the years to come. And there is many things to invent, and a lot of great stories to write. And I hope you would like to write a very nice story with Manitou and with the path you are on, actually. So thank you very much. This is now the time for questions. But before we go into our questions and etc., I just would like to know, in a word, what do you take away from this day? And thereafter we can have a chat together. So please, if you can go to Menti and share with us what you take away from this day, that would be very nice. Okay, preservation. Urgence, yes. Urgency. Great. Thank you so much for these words. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. So, well, thank you so much for all your words, and maybe we can open the floor to questions and chat, and yes. And yes, Manitou can help change the world for a better place.
Thank you very much, Pascale, for this presentation. So I think for all the people that are attending this presentation, it could be useful to know more about the CSR strategy, especially maybe regarding either the low carbon trajectory that Manitou is working on, or regarding the circular economy plans for Manitou Group. What are the studies, the models that are studied right now? Maybe Aude, you could give us some insight on that. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can either speak up through your microphone or write them down in the comment section.
Yes, thank you, Coralie. I can indeed come back on our main priorities on corporate social responsibility inside Manitou. We have 4 main priorities. These 4 main priorities have been implemented and integrated in the new Horizon strategy that has been presented to you at the beginning of the year. This is a translation for what we will do in the next 5 years in terms of corporate social responsibility. So our 4 main priorities, so we have first a low carbon trajectory. So on this one, we will come back on it on next Tuesday. So at the same time, we will explain you what is a carbon context today at the international level, what is a context for Manitou, and what is today our carbon footprint in Manitou, in our different activities, and we'll explain also what we will do in the future to reduce our emission. So I will not come back on that. Then we have also priority on safety for employees, obviously, but also for our clients. We have at the core of that a priority on human side and ethics. And on the right, as you can see in blue, we have also a priority which is very linked to low carbon. It's a circular economy. It's a very important lever to reduce our CO2 emission. And regarding circular economy, we are convinced today at Manitou that we have to conduct our studies and some research because we need to go deeply in our knowledge about that in order to set some objectives regarding circular economy. So at this stage, we are conducting different research studies at the service level to develop some new economic models at Manitou regarding circular economy. So it could be, for example, to take back some machines and see how we can recycle them, how we can remanufacture them, how we can take some components, some parts, and have it in the reman circular economy. We are also working on the recyclability of materials that are integrated in our product. So for the moment, we are conducting some studies on to know what is the recyclability rate percentage in the product, because we don't have this information. So it's an important information if we want to improve it. So to have this measure. We are also working, obviously, on our reman offers. So reman is, all parts that are remanufactured. So we have this range of parts. Also on increasing the turnover on the used machine, so second-hand machine. And the last one is on the plastic packaging, because we are using a lot of packaging, for the parts, and we are conducting some studies to see how we can substitute plastic by a more environmental friendly solution. So that's it for a circular economy.
Impressive program, huh?
Thank you, Aude. I guess that partly maybe answers the questions we had during Pascale's presentation. I don't remember who asked the questions, but if you need any more information, maybe you can complete your question. And then if does anybody else has a question for us, for Pascale or for Aude?
So this is Navodh from Manito, India. I've asked the question in the middle of the meeting. The same question, I'm going to repeat it. Basically, my regularly ask me on the monthly what amount of scrap we have scrapped during the month and what are our production numbers. If there's any way we could help him to provide him with any additional information regarding the CSR. Is there any other information that has been required from us?
Are you talking? I'm not sure to understand your question. Are you talking about the CSR audits?
Yes, CSR audit. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So yes, that's something we will communicate with you later on. But basically, yes, we do ask our production sites every year to have information on the waste they produce from the production operations. And we ask these questions because we are obligated to report on that due to French legislation. And we need this information to know which kind of final treatment is the waste is concerned by, so that we can be able to say, for example, that we recycle 100% of scrap steel, and that we that we recycle X percentage of our waste, either going to energy recovering or to recycling by the service provider of the waste collector. So that is the kind of information we ask our production site, and the idea is, of course, from one year to another, to try to maximize as much as possible, given the service providers that you have in your site, to try to maximize as much as possible the recycling or the reuse of waste. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's answer my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and maybe to complete, we are indeed working with health safety teams throughout the world in order to measure what are Manitou impacts. So this is the first thing to do, so to measure in order to improve and to reduce our impact. So as Coralie said, we are measuring today impacts such as water, but also COV emissions, so emission in the air due to the painting activity. We are also measuring energy consumption and CO2 emission of production sites.
Yes, exactly.
And obviously the objective is to improve all this KPI.
Yeah, and on that you will have a better focus on especially on the energy part on the next webinar on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
There are a couple of questions on the chat.
Okay, I didn't see them.
Okay.
Where can we access more information, and will we get this presentation?
Okay, so will we get this presentation? We will make the replay available. Were you talking about the presentation like a PDF, or the video replay would be enough for you?
Yes, I've seen the sheet.
Okay, great. So yes, it will be made available. We will send, we will put it on our CSR Elevation Google site, which is available from the intranet, and we will make an intranet news to let you know that it's available. And then where can we get more information? Well, there is the CSR Elevation Google site, where you have, for example, the CSR annual report, which is one chapter in the group annual report. And in that, you have all the information about the impact of Manitou regarding environmental aspects, but also regarding social aspects. And then if you want more information about the actual strategy that Aude presented with, with the 4 pillars, you have a presentation of the new CSR strategy that is available on the website as well. Maybe I can actually share the website link in the chat.
That was done by the communication.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay, great. And on the question from Sebastian on successful companies to take as a benchmark, if we look in our sector, because it's always interesting to look at best practices inside our sector, I would say, for example, Volvo Construction Equipment is a company which is leading in these aspects. They have a lot of best practices in terms of corporate social responsibility, and we have also another one in India called Mahindra. Mahindra, they have more tractors, but it's near our industry, and they are also leading in those aspects.
Great. Walter, would you like to share a little word with us around what we've been discussing?
If you hear me?
Yes.
Just maybe one word to say that it can seem to you this is a huge challenge, very, very huge and quite impressive, but we won't change in 2 days, but keep in mind that things have been done already in Manitou Group and in other companies, like you said, Volvo, for example. You have possibilities in a quite short term to change and to see the change. Look at the example of the retrofit. Retrofit, a couple of months ago or years ago, it didn't exist. Now it's a reality in a short perimeter. That's right, but it exists. So the question now is to implement and to amplify. And you're an actor that can implement and amplify this movement. So keep some hope. Be good. Be beautiful also. This revolution will be inspiring if it's beautiful. We need to give hope to people who work in Manitou and who will come to you. That's it. I want just to share this hope and enthusiasm.
Thank you, Walter.
Thank you, Walter. We have also a question from Sandeep, where ID can be shared about the works, activities done by team member or plant. It's a good question about sharing best practices. Coralie, do you have an answer on this one?
I have one. I was preparing my comment.
Okay.
We used to have the elevation challenge, which was collecting the best practices regarding business activities that were linked to improving impacts regarding the environment and social issues. Since COVID, we haven't renewed this challenge because the activities were we were not able to restart this challenge in the CSR team. The team is evolving, so we may restart the challenge next year. But to answer your question, every year we are collecting the best action that were implemented in factories regarding this impact, whereas it's the environment, or whereas it's to improve safety. So I'm going to share with you the document that is concerned by that, and usually it's completed by Javed Ali in MAE, who is the EHS coordinator, I believe, and it's to help us communicate on the actions that are implemented in the sites every year in the annual report. So I shared to you the document, but we will exchange more with Javed at the end of this year on this document.
And if I may take the opportunity to complete, so I'm Stephanie Watson from the Communication Department. As you may or may not know, a couple of weeks ago, our social network, internal social network Currents, was open, which enables you to work in communities. So you create a community, and that gives you a space to exchange on such topics. This is the ideal tool to be able to exchange, share information, share good practices. So as I mentioned in the chat, there's a workshop planned on the 27th of October. Invitation should come out very soon. And an expert on the Google Currents tool will be showing you how to use it and what the best practices on the tool are. So don't hesitate to connect on that. And this is a great way to implicate your colleagues, and you can share any I don't know, website, photos, best practices. Perhaps some of you already know Currents. I know some communities already exist. So don't hesitate to use it. It's for you, and it has to be piloted by you. So feel free. And I'm here to answer questions if you have some. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay. Well, I think we are running out of time. The webinar is coming to an end. If maybe there was a last question. Okay, so Aude, maybe you want to a last word?
No, so just thank you very much for all being here today with us. It was a pleasure to share with you on all this big issue, big stakes, and if you are interested to know more on the low carbon trajectory, you could come and join us on Tuesday at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Pascale. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pascale.
For having us today. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a
Bye-bye.
nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thanks.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, everyone. Bye.